Welcome to my podcast again. Today my guest is Hoey. He is a Democratic operative. Sounds pretty secretive, doesn't it? It's not really. He explains what it is because I had no idea. And you probably don't either. So he's going to explain the details and talk a little about his life. It's an interesting episode. Hey, while you're at it, you know what I've told you before, hit that subscribe button. It helps me. And I'll love you forever. Hi everyone, Wilkinson here. Today my guest is Hoey. He is a Democratic operative. Now it sounds like you're in the Secret Service or some really spooky thing. Is that correct?
No, I'm not in the Secret Service.
Okay.
As fun as I'm sure that is.
Okay. Well, anyway, say hi to everybody.
Hi everyone. Nice to be speaking with you.
What is a Democratic operative anyway? Because I'd never heard that term like that.
It's really just a fancy way of saying that I work for Democratic political candidates who are running for office across the country. I've worked for Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, other Democratic candidates who are seeking office.
And what do you do?
What do I do?
Yeah.
There are a lot of different roles on political campaigns for Democrats. What I really focus on is what we would call field work or ground game, building organizations to reach out to voters, all of the annoying mailers that you get in an election season, or canvassers who come to your door, people who call you on the phone, people who text you now to say, make sure that you vote for your Democratic candidate. I lead the organizations and build the organizations that make that possible.
So you're the one doing all those annoying things.
Yeah, and I don't apologize for it.
Really?
No, not at all.
Is that effective?
Yes, it is. I just worked for Catherine Cortez Masto, who won re-election in Nevada for the United States Senate. She just won her second term, and something that she won by just a sliver of a margin. She won by 9,000 votes. And something that we did in Nevada that is really common nowadays is what we call ballot curing. When you, for instance, mail back your ballot in places like California or Nevada, for instance, you put your signature on the envelope.
Right. Sometimes
that signature doesn't match the signature that's on file. That causes your ballot to be rejected.
Right.
And so something that you can do if you're a voter who, if your ballot is rejected, you can reach out to your county clerk to say, my ballot was rejected, but I did vote. I can confirm that that was me and that my vote should count. And then the clerk will count your vote. That happened a lot in 2022 in Nevada because mail ballots were statewide for the first time in Nevada in 2022. So there were a lot of Democratic voters in particular who were affected by their ballots being rejected. And so something that we did is we ran a really aggressive operation to reach out to voters to say, your ballot was rejected. You need to reach out to the county clerk to have your ballot cured.
So you can tell when they're rejected?
Yes.
So that's public info?
It's public information.
Okay.
It depends on the state, how you get that information. But in Nevada, we get it from the county clerk or the county registrar. And we were able to reach enough voters that almost accounted for the margin that she won by. We cured several thousand ballots that almost accounted for her margin. And so, that's just to say that in really competitive elections, going door to door, talking to your neighbors about candidates that you believe in and your values and why you should support Democratic candidates really actually does have an impact. And I can say, for a fact that if we hadn't done that, it'd be hard to imagine that Catherine would be, put her in a much more precarious situation to be reelected. Right. And her seat made Democrats majority in the United States Senate for this Congress. And so...
How many people voted in that election? If she won by 9K.
She won by 9,000 votes. I think around 1 million people voted. I don't remember off the top of my head, but she had 475,000 votes, and her opponent, had 9,000 votes fewer than her. So it was right around 1 million.
Do you know what the population in that state is of voters?
Of Nevada?
Yeah, how many didn't vote, I guess is what I'm asking.
How many people didn't vote? I don't know that off the top of my head, actually.
Yeah. A midterm is probably not that
It's lower
important,
turnout
right?
for sure. Yeah.
Right.
Midterms have typically lower turnout. And especially in a state like Nevada, we have voters who are typically less engaged than in some other states.
Why is that?
I think there's a couple of reasons. I think Nevada is a very transient state. Lots of people moving in, lots of people moving out all the time. And so it's a complicated state. And so yeah, we had there's less engagement and this is true of any state across the country. There's just like less engagement in a midterm year than there is in a presidential year.
Yeah. So what made you become an operative, and how long have you been doing it?
Great question. My family was not political growing up, but always very civic minded. My dad served a term on our city council when I was a kid, and we always talked about the importance of voting. We watched the news, but we didn't talk about politics around the table. And in fact, I think growing up, my parents were registered Republicans when they grew up in Iowa, where you register as a party. In Wisconsin, where I grew up, you don't register with a party, but they were registered Republicans. And I think, though, I became really interested in politics, and I thought it was really important in 2011 or 2010 when I was in Wisconsin growing up. There was a governor elected. His name was Scott Walker. And he,
Is he out of the picture now?
He's mostly out of the picture now. He lost his bid for re-election in 2018, and
he was nasty.
He was terrible.
Yeah.
He was terrible. I mean, that's what got me motivated originally. Was he put together a bill to repeal collective bargaining rights for public sector employees, including teachers, the people who I credit for so much of my success and my upbringing, and I just thought it was wrong. And so I organized my fellow students to speak out about this. There were recall elections that I started getting involved in.
Was he recalled?
He was recalled, yes.
Did he lose that recall?
He won the recall.
But then he lost the next election.
He won the next election, and then he lost the election after that. So he was recalled in 2012, won the recall. He won his re-election in 2014, and then he lost his re-election in 2018.
Yay.
But that really inspired me to get involved, and I got involved with Barack Obama's campaign shortly after that. He was running for re-election, and, I just caught the bug, and I just felt so passionately about the mission and the values. And I think that politics for so many people in this country can be, nasty and disheartening, but, what I see every day, and certainly there are things that I don't love in our political system. But, what I believe and what I know is that when we elect Democrats or people who share our values, they have impact. They have real tangible impact on people's lives. And so I think it's important.
Did you ever meet Obama?
I did meet Barack Obama, yes.
Okay, so here's the question. So if you're going to a European country that you've never been to before, and you're going to have a travel mate, would it be Obama, Mrs. Clinton, or Mr. Biden?
Oh, that's such an interesting question. They're all such interesting people. I would choose Hillary. I went to go work for Hillary when she ran for president. I moved to Iowa in 2015 when she announced her candidacy for the nomination. And she is someone to me who is so inspiring, someone who, she's relentless. She is someone who, not just in her political values, but in her personal values and the way she conducts herself, I just find her so inspiring. Someone who, in the 1990s got knocked down time and time again, got back up, ran for Senate, got knocked down, ran for president, got knocked down, was the Secretary of State, got knocked down again, ran for president, got knocked down, and she said, you got to keep going and fighting for what you believe in. Even though I lost, it's still important that we push back against the president. And she's so interesting. She's had such an interesting life, and in the White House and the Senate, she's so smart. I mean, I find her so compelling. I would love to be on a long plane ride with her to pick her ear. Oh yeah, of course. I think she's funny too.
Is she?
I think she's funny. I love listening to her laugh. I don't know. There's just something. Also, gay men I think are so just attracted to powerful women. So
wait, you're gay?
Yeah, I don't know if you got that vibe from me, but I'm gay.
The sequin outfit kind of does it.
I'm not wearing sequins right now, for the record.
Everybody, yeah. All right. Have you ever met Michelle Obama?
I haven't met her personally, but I have seen her at a couple of rallies.
That doesn't count. Okay. So
Sorry.
I want firsthand experience. So back to Hillary.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think she lost?
Why do I think
the
she
last
lost?
election?
To be honest, I think she. So
was it Comey and his little shenanigans or what?
I think there's a confluence of factors. I think that's definitely one of the factors. I mean, right. I think it's important to remember that she lost by 70,000 votes spread across 3 states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. It's hard to imagine, honestly, in my mind, that she would have lost if the email story hadn't broken, a month before Election Day. And
Wasn't it even be closer than that? It seems like something was
I want to say it was October.
Really
I don't
close.
remember. It was earlier mid-October. So yeah, it was weeks. It was a few weeks before the election. Right. And I mean, yeah, I just I think we didn't run a perfect campaign when she was running for president the second time, but I think we ran a damn good one. And I think that for decades before that, there was truly a conspiracy to bring her down. And I think that conspiracy prevailed. And I think it's really sad because I think she would have been such an incredible president, really an incredible president. Do
you have any stories with any of the 3 I mentioned a minute ago?
I do have stories, different stories for each of them. Yeah.
Well, let's hear them.
So I met Barack Obama personally for the first time last year when he came to stump for Catherine, who was running for re-election in Nevada. He was great, very personable, very tall.
Oh, really?
Excellent handshake. He's fantastic. We didn't talk for very long.
Well, he's got to be the best in shape president we've had in my memory.
Yeah, big hands.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Okay. He was so kind though, and he just said, essentially he just said, I know that this is going to be one of the toughest races in the country. Just keep going. That was wonderful to hear. Hillary, I had interacted with her a couple of times when she was running for president. I think my favorite was she did a rally in Council Bluffs, Iowa in October, I want to say, of 2015. And I actually had strep throat, but I didn't want to skip the rally because, this is Hillary Clinton. This is someone who
And you don't want to give it to her.
But I also didn't want to give it to her. So right. All the other, staff who were there got their own picture. But I stepped back and I said, I can't give strep throat to, the potential next president of the United States. And so I didn't. But I just remember her being so warm and so funny. I have a really funny picture of her with the team that I was working with where she was kind of back to back, with someone who was working with us, like James Bond. And she
with
did,
the fingers in the gun
Yeah,
thing.
I'll show you the picture after this, but it is really fun. Joe Biden is also one of the most empathetic, and I just think he understands real people and working people, unlike so many candidates who run for office, especially at that level. It's so hard. You are surrounded by Secret Service and staff all the time, and he just really cares about working people, and he's really notorious for what we would call working the rope line. So when you're at a political rally with a candidate, the rope line is where, there's some sort of divider between the candidate and where the people observing the rally can stand, and where, the candidate will come and shake hands. In 2020, when he was running for president, I was working for him, and it was the pandemic, and so there was no rope line, and he just loved the rope line and interacting with real people. So we did this project that we sort of called internally just the Real People Project, or Real People Calls, where we would identify people who were, working in COVID during the pandemic, because he wasn't doing.
Were these Zoom calls or phone calls?
I think they were phone calls. I was never a part of them. My responsibility was just help identify the people that he would call so he could reach out to people, because we weren't doing in-person events for obvious reasons. And there was one time where we put together this call, and not long after that, I got a call from someone who was staffing the president, and she called to say that she was trying to find more details on the person that I wrote the memo for him to call and about this person. And she called me and asked if there were more details that I could provide. And I really didn't have them, to be honest. And
now, this is the one where you just said, call this lady in Georgia, right?
Yeah, it's a woman in Georgia. I said a little bit more than call this lady in Georgia, okay. But after a couple of, 30 seconds, a minute, I didn't realize she was with the president at the time. I just heard the president in the background say, put him on. And she passes the phone to the president. He asked me questions about this woman that I was asking him to call. And gosh, I can't remember the exact details of the conversation, but I could tell he was not happy because he felt like he did not understand enough to call this woman and talk to her about her life. Right. And so after maybe 30 seconds of trying to tell him a little bit more and saying I couldn't answer his questions, he said, all right, and then passed the phone back and, click and
wow,
and hung up.
Well, how'd you feel after that?
I think it's a little bit humbling when you get in trouble with someone who ends up being the president, but I think it's, he at the end of the day is someone who is rare in the sense that I think really cares about trying to connect with working people in the midst of his really busy day. And also, there are a lot of demands on that job. And I think generally, even though that was a tough moment, I was like, oh, that's not great. I think. So
you gave more details next time.
Oh, the next I knew what questions to ask for the future memos. So, But yeah, I'm so glad that he's president. I think he's done just such an incredible job as president, and he hasn't announced for a re-election yet, but I hope he does. And
so 2024, what do you think? What's the backroom scuttlebutt? Do you think he should run?
Absolutely, I think he should run.
Even though he's 80, he'll be 80.
Here's the thing about what people say about the president, and say whatever you want about his age. He's been, in my opinion, the most effective president certainly in my lifetime. I think in
more
many
than
people's
Obama?
life. Yes, maybe as an operative, maybe I shouldn't say that in the microphone, but I really think that because we have had in the House, we had the narrowest of majorities in the first half of his first term, and in the Senate, it was a 50-50 majority. It's so hard to get anything done in those circumstances. And he did, right? We got the American Rescue Plan done. We got infrastructure done. We got all of these things done with the narrowest of majorities. We got a Supreme Court justice. We got judges confirmed to the bench. We just have been rocking and rolling in, I think, delivering real impactive laws and change for the American people, especially coming out of the Trump presidency and the economy and COVID. We've really, I think, bounced back. And I think that he has an incredible record to run on, record low unemployment, inflation is coming down. We're delivering, like I said, inflation, the Inflation Reduction Act, and on climate change. I just think there's so much to go to the American people and say, give me 4 more years. And I think he would do an incredible job as president.
Do you think the average Democrat is aware of all that, though? Or are they just, okay, I can breathe now. I don't have to worry about trumping and I don't want to read the news, but I've got to open it up, whether it's a paper or online or whatever, and see what the train wreck is for today.
Yeah, I think that I think that's a great point, and I think that there's more education work that we have to do that's incumbent upon us. That's part of the reason, I'm excited to see him announced for president. Hopefully he does, and we get to spend a lot of time over the next year and a half or 2 years talking about everything that we've done and what we're going to do for the next 4. I think his State of the Union speech that he gave 2 weeks ago, or a little less than 2 weeks ago, was a great foundation for that, where he talked about protecting Medicare and Social Security. He talked about the Junk Fee Elimination Act, or I can't remember the exact word for it, but protecting abortion rights. I just think that there's so much that's still on the line that he's going to do a great job of, and it's going to be incumbent upon us for telling the story of how this is affecting everyday Americans.
So the people on the Democratic side, are they worried about 2024 or not?
Yeah, there should be, everyone should always be worried about the outcome of the election because there's so much at stake. I mean, it's so consequential.
And like, who would have thunk?
Yeah, right? I mean, but, who would have thought that Donald Trump would have been president? Certainly not me when he announced that he was running. I remember.
And certainly not
laughing.
Hillary.
Yeah, certainly not Hillary. I mean,
yeah.
So, I just think that we can never take anything for granted. I think we have a great chance at winning, but we are going to have to work for it. It's not a shoo-in at all.
What do you think is going to happen in the Senate? Do you have any feel on that?
In terms of...
Will we keep it?
I think we can. I mean, there's great leadership in the Senate right now. I think that there are really great people running the campaigns, at least for those people who have announced for election. But I think it's also a really tough map. I mean, the places that we have to win in 2024 with the Democratic president at the top of the ticket, we have to win West Virginia. We don't necessarily have to win all of these states, but these are the places where we have incumbents. West Virginia, Montana, Ohio, Wisconsin, Nevada. These are just the places off the top of my head.
Right. What effect do you think all the gerrymandering by the Republicans, what's that going to do?
Well, gerrymandering doesn't really have an effect on the Senate because Senate, those are statewide seats. Right. And so you don't really, there's no control there.
Just generally.
Yeah. I mean, gerrymandering is not great. And we can look at places like Florida and Texas, for instance, where those districts just look terrible, where, they definitely have more Republicans, than they should, than voters would have voted for. But we got to deal with the districts that we have, unfortunately. So
what's your opinion on the Electoral College?
On the Electoral College?
The fact that we have it. Why?
I don't think it's great. I don't think
it'll ever go away.
It's encoded in the Constitution, and we have to think about ways to undo that. That's really tough to do, but I think it's really important to do that.
It would take an amendment, right?
It would take an amendment, yes.
And how many states have to sign on to that?
A lot.
To even.
Well, I mean, there's a couple of ways to get a constitutional amendment through. They're all very challenging, but I think it's important because I think the Electoral College is not good for the country. I mean, what is it? 6 out of the 7 presidential elections, Democrats have won the popular vote. Only one time did Republicans win the popular vote. I think that was Bush in 2004, but Republicans won the presidency because of the Electoral College in 2000, 2004, and 2016. And I think that's not right.
So you're gay?
I am gay.
How'd that come out? Did you come out?
I did. I came out, I would say 1.5 times. I would say I came out 1.5 times, yeah.
So you kind of like the closet?
No. No, it's so much better being on the outside.
Speak. What happened?
So
first of all, where were you and how old were you when your story is starting here?
I mean, I think you could say like all my life, not all my life, but I think from a very young age, I knew that I was gay. I just knew that I was different from.
So it started out as different, not gay.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't have the word for it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And I think that's one of the things, Ron DeSantis in Florida was pushing forward the Don't Say Gay bill last year. And I think it's so disheartening because I think one of the hardest things about coming out and understanding when you are gay or queer or whatever, when I was growing up, certainly there was no language, there's no popular figure, no pop culture figure, no one who I could be like, oh, that's what I am. I'm gay. There's nothing like that. And I think that's so harmful. But
when you were little and you're watching TV, did you have any heroes?
Did I have any heroes? Yes. I mean,
who? Do you remember?
Yes. I think of a lot of shows that I watched. I remember watching Kim Possible, and I remember watching Lizzie McGuire on the Disney Channel. All very strong women characters.
Wait, I'm talking about guys that you were.
Oh, guys that I was really interested in.
You went, ooh.
I mean, I was a sucker for the Power Rangers and the, skin tight suits.
Oh, so you like football?
No, I don't like football. Oh, well, there are certain parts of football, sure.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt. Back to your story.
You're okay.
So you're how old and you're thinking I need to come out? What happened?
I was probably 16 when I was getting ready to have this conversation with family and friends, and unfortunately that I had kind of planned out about how I was going to have that conversation. Unfortunately, that kind of got spoiled because I was in the Midwest. Show choir is a really big thing in high school. And
Show choir?
Show choir. It's
What's that?
so it's like
You're in shows and
you know
you're the
the show.
choir?
You know the show Glee. Do you remember the show Glee?
Yeah.
That's what.
Okay.
That's what it is. It's 20 minutes or 25 minutes of singing and dancing, whatever.
Okay.
It's very competitive in the Midwest. That was the only sport that I did. That should have been a big giveaway to anyone that I was not straight. But I had a coach in my show choir who had solicited me to sneak out of my house to go meet him in the middle of the night.
You were 16?
I was 16. I mean, and I was, I think
Was he a
attracted.
teacher? Or
He was not a teacher at the school.
Okay, he wasn't.
So that's good. But he...
And how old was he?
He was 20s. I don't know how old he
Okay.
was. Early, mid-20s. So I was 16.
And he was
maybe,
a coach or something?
Yeah, he was like the
Okay, bad
assistant
coach, okay.
director. Yeah, not a good coach.
Right.
But I was really interested in him because, he was gay out of the closet. I was gay in the closet. I thought there was so much I could learn from him. I loved show choir. I was really interested in that. But he solicited me to, sneak out of my house in the middle of the night. And my parents found out going through my phone that he had done this and I had left my house. And essentially, really spoiled my plans for coming out. It was like, I think coming out for gay people is so important because we like to do it we want to do it on our own terms, right? And that was not on my own terms by any means. My parents had found out that I was sneaking out, interested in a gay man, not on my own terms, not in the way that I wanted them to find out. And
Why were they sneaking around on your phone?
I don't know.
Something must have tipped them off.
I mean,
Or were they just sneaky?
I don't know. I think that's a great question. I should maybe ask my parents that. Because I honestly don't recall why my parents were going through my phone. Probably because I was 16 and I was the oldest of four. And so I think.
Did they think you were doing drugs or something or no?
No, I just think that they were, at the end of the day, even though I think that their actions and the way that they followed up on this was misguided. Like, I think they just wanted the best for me and they wanted me to be safe. And so, we're going through my phone, which is not what I would have done, but that's what happened. And my parents found out and, wanted me to go to therapy and all this sort of stuff. And it wasn't explicitly like conversion therapy, but I remember sitting down with the person that they had set me up with who essentially told me he said, you're addicted to, this, and I want to help you get over that addiction. He didn't say, I can convert you or anything like that.
Right.
But yeah,
so
it was
gay
terrible.
was bad in his estimation.
I mean, yeah, it was. And
Was it a church thing?
no, it was not a church thing. It was a real, like, legitimate
Misguided therapist.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and I think I'm sure we've come a long way. I know we've come a long way in the last decade or 2 decades since that happened. But I mean, I think it really kind of sheds a light on like how there's a lot of education that people have needed to go through on what it means to be gay and coming out and everything like that. And so, anyways, that was a terrible experience. That was.
So you never actually came out then? I mean, they knew you were
Not that
gay because
time.
you're sneaking out, obviously.
Right.
So you just kind of let it quiet down and
Yeah,
don't
I
talk
mean,
about
it was a terrible experience and I felt so ashamed. I actually remember I lived in the only bedroom in our basement, and that meant I had my own bathroom. And I remember taking the mirror down in that bathroom because I was so ashamed looking at myself in the mirror. And my dad asked me about it one day, why I took down the mirror. I said, because I'm really ashamed. And it was just a terrible experience. And so
When you said that to him, did they think you were cured from going with a therapist then?
no, because I think at that time, the optimal outcome for my parents was for me not to be gay, but I think they would have accepted it. And I know, actually, having talked to my mom at the time, she, indicated as much. I think would have reluctantly accepted that her son was gay, but I think that was not a great feeling for me. So I, kind of came back in the closet for a couple of years, and then when I was 20, when I was in college, I knew, and there's no way I was not interested in women. I was just so different than straight men. And so I was away from my parents then, and I had enough time to reflect and have conversations.
Right.
I started coming out to my friends 2 years before when I was 18. And so I finally pulled the plug, I think when I was 20. And yeah, I told my parents that I was gay. And, that was actually a much better experience than the first time. I think that they had been prepared,
Right.
for the eventual
They had a dry
outcome.
run on it.
Exactly. They had a dry run on it.
Yeah.
Then, my mom and my dad just said, we love you no matter what. And we're so glad that you're comfortable, XYZ. And so now we have a great relationship. And
you have 3 siblings?
3 siblings, yeah.
How'd they take it?
Oh, they were all fine. They're all younger than me. And I think being gay to them is not a big deal. I think they, it's amazing to me how I feel like I was at the end of a generation where being gay was so challenging. And I just feel like with like the flip of a switch for people who are not even 5 years younger than me, being gay, at least in certain parts of the country, I'm not saying that it's easy, but coming out, I think, was so much easier. And I think people were able to identify as gay a lot younger than I did. And so I think my younger siblings were all kind of part of that generation of people who are just a couple years younger, where it just is not
a big deal.
It's not a big deal. Yeah, it's normal, very normal. Yeah.
Are they all straight?
Yeah, as far as I know, at least. Haven't heard anything yet. My sister's married to a man. My other little sister's married to a man. My little brother is not in a relationship, so maybe he's, with us, but I don't know. I think
your mother's not going to like that if he is. What happened to the guy that was talking you into sneaking out of the house?
Honestly, I don't really know. I haven't
Did your parents press charges or get
No, they didn't press charges. They certainly brought it to the attention of the school, and he was fired.
Okay.
I think he was definitely not around for much longer at the school. And I do remember, though, a couple of years after, this is after I came out the second time, I was going to school at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, in the city where I grew up. And so he still lived around there. And I had Grindr, and he had messaged me on Grindr. He knew it was me. He recognized me it was not like a, hey, what's up, or how are you? He was like, hey, Sean. I forget exactly what he said, but I think he said something to the extent of, I'm sorry, I would love to talk to you, or something like that. And I just had no time of day for it because, even though I don't think I really wanted him to like go to jail or anything, nor do I think that, or I don't know what I think if I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know if he could go to jail or not for what he did. But I think like he really set me back like a couple of years. In those years, I was personally truly very miserable. I mean, I'm sure you can relate, being closeted for however long. It just is a terrible feeling. I don't know that I have even forgiven him yet for setting me back those couple of years where I was truly so sad and so miserable.
How did he set you back?
He took away from me what was something that was supposed to be mine. We were talking about this concept of coming out, and coming out is just such a terrible, I think, phenomenon that only gay and queer people have to go through. Straight people don't have to go through it. You don't have to go through it for any other identity except if you're, queer or gay or whatever. The only good thing about coming out when you're gay is that you get to decide when it happens. You get to do it on your own terms. When you are comfortable, when you are ready, when you've prepared the language and the people you're going to do it to. And he took that all away from me. He stole the words from me. He essentially got to my parents before I did. And
how did he do that?
Because he snuck me out of my house, and
let's stop for a moment. Let's back up for a moment. So what if your parents hadn't been sneaking around on your phone? Because when I listen to you, I think it almost seems like your parents would be the one you'd be mad at, not him.
They definitely share some of the blame.
Well, they're the ones that did all that. What if they never looked at your phone? What do you think would have happened?
Nothing would have happened.
So you would have been okay with it, right?
Well, I shouldn't say nothing would have happened. I don't think at that moment in time my parents would have discovered what was going on, but I can't say what's true of, I think in retrospect, truly, like, this man was taking advantage of me, and I don't think it would have stopped, at that one incident. I think there would have been probably others.
So he was in his early 20s?
I don't remember how old he was. He's maybe 24, 25, and I was 16, so...
I mean, I get what you're saying, but it seems like to me, just listening to it, it seems like some of the blame, quote unquote, should go to your parents.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting. I've really never thought of it that way before. I feel like now I'm in like therapy and you're like forcing me to think about things that I've never thought about before.
I'm not forcing you to do anything. I'm just merely bringing up a question.
Yeah, I
don't expect any answers.
I think there's truth to that. And I'm really gonna have to think more about that. But I think at the end of the day, the way that I still feel and have felt for a long time is he put me in a situation that I shouldn't have been in. Like what he did was wrong, and I didn't really see that at the time.
Right.
But I see that in retrospect that was wrong, and had I not been in that situation, ultimately, I think I would have been able to have the coming out that I wanted.
Right.
That I think would have been for me healthier and more successful. But it's okay. At the end of the day, I actually don't really think about this much anymore. I used to think about it a lot. I don't think about it much anymore because, today I'm I'm a happy person. I'm a successful person. And I really believe that I say this a lot, and sometimes I mean it sarcastically, but I actually really mean it truthfully. It's like the universe provides that you can't always predict where you're going. And sometimes it feels like you're not going in the direction that you feel like you need to be going in, but you will always end up in the place that you need to be going to, and you will always end up in the place where you will be happy. And sometimes you can't really predict how that's going to unfold, but I think, had things been any different for me.
Wait a minute. So why are there so many unhappy people in the world? If
That doesn't mean you're going to be happy all the time.
Well, there's people that are unhappy all of the time. I can have you meet some.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
I do believe the universe sends you stuff.
Yeah. Kind of what I believe is like my, coming out related to being gay or not being gay, my professional life, my other, it just has all led me to where I am right now, where I feel like I generally am pretty happy. I think I'm pretty successful. And I couldn't have predicted when I was, that young that I would be in the place where I am now. But had some of those events not transpired in the way that they did, I don't know that I'd be here in the exact same situation. I'm grateful that I'm here because I like my life.
That makes me ask you another question.
Uh-huh.
So here's a pill. If you take it, you'll be straight. Would you take it?
No.
Why?
Because being gay is such a fundamental part of my identity. It's not all of my identity, nor I wouldn't even call it like the majority of my identity, but it's such an important part of my identity. And being gay has brought such interesting people and community into my life. I know people like you now and I think you're such a fascinating and interesting person. And your story was so interesting to me to hear about. And I wouldn't have that and countless experiences that I love, countless friends that I love. I think, as gay people, we talk a lot about our chosen family. Mm-hmm. I love my chosen family. I love I'm thinking about them right now. My friends, Ethan and Alex and Bobby, like these.
Do they live around you now?
They don't. They all live in different parts of the country. One lives outside of Chicago. Two live in DC. One lives outside of Chicago. There are many others.
But when you meet them after an absence, it's like you were gone an hour, right?
Yeah, I talk to them all the time, and we all have this commonality of like being gay, and I just love, there's so many things to gripe about with the gay community, but it's
not perfect.
It can be competitive and snarky and whatever, but at the end of the day, we have this like commonality that people across the world, if you're straight, you just don't have it. And I'm so grateful for that, having that common language and experience. I think honestly, straight people are really missing out. I mean, they didn't go through the
we
decades.
Don't want that's the gay agenda. We're trying to convert people.
I know, and we got to really work on that a little bit more.
Right. Okay, so you've lived in, let's say you said DC, right?
Yes, I have lived in DC.
And you live where right now?
I live in Las Vegas, Nevada.
What city have you liked the most as a gay man?
Oh, that's such a good question. DC is an interesting city for gay men. It can be really fun. Are there a lot of
closeted Republicans?
There are definitely some. I know that for a fact.
Well, and probably Democrats as well.
And Democrats as well.
Yeah.
I think, that's a fun city for gay men. It can be definitely very competitive, which I don't love. I also love LA for gay men.
Have you lived there?
I have lived there. I lived there for a year, and
Have
loved
you lived
LA.
in New York?
I lived in Jersey City for a couple of months, and
That doesn't count.
I hated it. Yeah, that's what someone from New York would say.
Right.
But-
It's like Seattle on the east side.
I don't know anything about
that's not
Seattle,
part of
but I
it,
can
yeah.
imagine.
How about San Francisco?
I've never lived in San Francisco. I visited a bunch of times, but I've
Okay.
never lived there. But
So you like LA?
I love LA.
So Las Vegas or DC? Which one wins?
You can't compare them. They're just so
I can
different.
because I'm the podcaster and
Oh
I'm
my
asking you
gosh.
the question.
People ask me this actually a lot, and they're just so different.
Right.
You know, DC is a small, compact city that's very walkable, very historic. Las Vegas, you know, by comparison, is so not walkable. In so many ways, brand new. You know, the population has doubled, I think, in the last 30 years from 1 million to 2 million.
And do you stay away from the plastic strip?
I do. If you're a local in Vegas, you don't go to the Strip. It's too expensive. It's too much of a hassle. Dealing with the tourists is too much. But they're just so different.
You don't like drunk tourists?
No,
Oh,
no, I don't. I'm glad that they're here and spending their money in Las Vegas because that helps, you know, bring money back into the pockets of my neighbors. But
Right.
good for the economy. But no, they're not fun to deal with, to be honest.
so where are you going from here? I don't mean like tomorrow. I mean like, what's your next steps in your life?
In my life, well, I
You got
think
campaigns coming up or what?
Yeah, well, if Joe Biden announces for re-election, I would love to be a part of that. I think, you know, it's really important that he gets reelected if he runs again, and so I think that professionally, you know, is really important. I think,
Well, what you could do though, what I would suggest is grow a mustache, dye your hair blonde, and maybe he won't know it's you. After that little
very
episode.
well.
with him.
The great thing about that is he never saw he
didn't
it was
know, he
on the
never
phone.
saw
It was
you.
on the phone, so he didn't see my face. It was not connected to him that way.
All right.
All
right.
I would have to talk with like a deep voice or, you know, kind
Yeah,
of.
good luck with that.
Yeah, thanks.
Wow. So anyway, back to the question. So Biden, maybe. What else?
I want to get him reelected, but you know, this year for me, it's so funny because all of my friends are older than me. I'm the youngest of basically all of my friends, but this year it's a really big deal for me this year. I'm turning 30 this year.
Oh my God.
I know.
You're that old? Wow.
But I've been doing a lot of reflection on what's important in
I
my
thought
life.
I was
and-
talking to somebody cool, but you're like 30.
I know, I'm so old. But you know, I think after 2024 and hopefully we get the president reelected, I would love to you know, I think politics will always be a part of my life, but it's been just such a dominating force in where I move and what I do, working, you know, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week for a year. You know, it's really exhausting. And so I would love to move back to LA. I love LA. It's so beautiful, and just focus on parts of my life that aren't my professional life, and maybe finding a partner. If not a partner, a dog. That's the next
I'm not
best
sure
thing.
which should be more work.
I also want to be a better brother to my siblings. My sister got married last summer, and she's having a baby. My first nephew, my first anything.
Uncle Sean.
Yeah, Gunkle Sean. That's me.
Gunkle.
I'm
Oh,
excited.
you're going to read the Gunkle? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, of course. But I would love to be closer to my sisters and my brother, and
Where are they? They're in Wisconsin?
they're all over. No,
Oh.
my big little sister. I say my big little sister because she's my oldest little sister.
Right.
My big little sister lives in Austin, Texas. My little sister lives in Bozeman, Montana, and then my little brother lives in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, which is a town outside of the Twin Cities, like an hour outside of the Twin Cities.
Okay.
Yeah. So all
Wait
over.
a minute. Did you tell me a story about the Austin one? Was she defending some gay or something? What was?
Yeah.
What was?
Yeah.
I'm not imagining. Okay.
No, you're not imagining.
Because you've been here a
this.
few days. We've been talking.
Well,
okay.
and this is, you know, I was telling you about how I think being gay to my siblings was just not a big deal. I think part of it too is like they aren't gay, so
Right.
it's like kind of the stakes are not quite as high, I think, for them. But when I was growing up, there was one gay kid who was out at my high school, and he was getting picked on and bullied by a guy. This gay kid was in my sister's grade, a year younger than me, and he's being picked on in class with my sister, and my sister just looks at this bully and clocks him in the face. And
really?
Yeah, she hit him. And she said, I don't know exactly what she said, but she said, you can't pick on gay people, because I think he, the bully called him a faggot or something like that. So my sister's been a real fierce ally for a long time. And so, yeah, so, when I came out to my sister, I knew it was going to be okay.
Right.
Like, she was not going to have a problem with it. She's a big defender. So, which is interesting, by the way, too, because my sister is, and my entire family grew up, we were Catholic, we were raised Catholic, and I think my parents became a little disillusioned with the church, and I certainly did. My sister became disillusioned with the Catholic Church, but she is Lutheran. She's very involved in her church. She is or was a Sunday school teacher and like really involved with youth in the church. And I think that's so interesting, because I think that a lot of gay folks have like this I don't want to say antipathy, but like just maybe like a dislike, or like a kind of like disdain a little bit for the church, because
they've been hurt.
Yeah, no, and not illegitimately. I mean, like, I think we have a real beef with some of these folks, but it's just, I think that's interesting. It's interesting to me because I think my sister is like living proof of the fact that you can be Christian and also be like a really strong advocate and an ally. Because I think at the end of the day, even though I don't really identify as Christian anymore, but I think she would say, Jesus taught Christians and everyone to love and respect everyone. And how can you follow through in those values if you're using the Bible and the church to say, you can't be gay? So I really respect her for that. I really do. I think it's really important.
Great. So looking back at your 29-point-something life, years of your life, what have you learned? What are a couple lessons you could share with my peeps?
Something that we were talking about before, which is what I would say is like the universe provides, like take it a step at a time. Even when you find yourself out of place and you don't know exactly where your life is going, you will get and end up in the place where you need to be, where you'll be happy and successful and fulfilled and find meaning in your life. Don't get too far ahead of yourself. I think in that sense, I think balance is really important. And I say it as someone who's terribly unbalanced in my life. I spend way too much time. No, I shouldn't say way too much time. Working is really important to me, and I find my career and my work very meaningful, but it's not everything. Whether or not the president wins or loses, or whatever Democrat is running for office, like wins or loses, like I'm still going to live on, in theory, fingers crossed. I'm still like, living and kicking. I still have family. I still have, my two little sisters, my parents, my little brother. So I think reminding yourself that balance is really important is another lesson that I've really been reflecting on.
Balance. This is from the guy that you worked before you came here for a retreat? You worked how many hours for how many days?
I'm not saying
long?
that I embody balance, but it is something that I'm aspiring to.
So I'm calling you on your shit here.
Yeah, you should. And I'd be the first to admit it. Balance is important. And then I think something else that I am spending a lot of time thinking about and reflecting on is like vulnerability. I think too, especially like a lot of gay guys or gay folks or queer folks pretend to be invulnerable, because I think like we try to build up like this shield that will protect us from getting hurt, because I think we've spent a huge chunk of our lives being hurt. And I think it's important to let your guard down. I don't know how you can meet significant others or what have you. Something struck me a couple of years ago is I was dating a guy. This was in 2017. This is 5 or 6. How long ago was that? Wow. 6 years ago. And one of my best friends one of my best friends at the time, I didn't tell her I was dating this guy for like 6 months. And when she found out, she was so offended that I had not told her. And I didn't tell her, not because I was closeted. She knew that I was gay, but I just felt like she did not, like it was not important. It was not necessarily important to her to share that information, and that she really wanted to know. And so she was really offended and said, like, I really wish you would have told me that because I'm your friend and I really care about you. And so I just think about that because I think a lot of gay folks in particular, like, kind of have this sense of like, or try to put up the sense of like invulnerability and like shield themselves from things that could be hurtful or too personal. In ways that like
tell her because you thought maybe she wouldn't accept that or what?
I don't, I just think that I thought that it was a detail that wasn't relevant, and I think she would definitely would have accepted it. She's lesbian, like she would have accepted it. It was more that I think that my personal life, I thought like my personal life didn't really concern her. And I don't know why I thought that, but anyways, I think it's important to, when you have like something that's close and personal to you, I think it's important to remember that people want to know that and people care about that, and you should share that with other people. So that's something I'm trying to do is like be more vulnerable.
And see, that's why you don't like Facebook.
That's why I don't like Facebook. Exactly.
Any regrets in your life?
Any regrets in my life?
Yep.
Yeah, I have some regrets.
Anything?
Do I need to enumerate them?
What? Like, pick one.
I have a couple of regrets. I think one of my biggest regrets, going back to being invulnerable, I was in this relationship with this man who I was talking about, and we were together for 2 years and we broke up. And then I think it was about not even quite a year after that, I had met someone else. His name is Michael. And I'm sure that's going to make its way into the podcast. And if he ever hears this, there's
like a million gay Michaels.
Yeah, there are. Well, I just was not ready, I think, to move on from my previous boyfriend when I met Michael. And we were hooking up and then became, more than hooking up. And I think he wanted more than I was willing to give. And I just was really not willing or ready to tell him that, I'm not, I'd just been in this long relationship. I was not ready to kind of, go as far as he wanted. And I was actually really, a lot of times, I think I kind of strung him along and was actually quite, I don't know about mean, but definitely cold. And I didn't treat him well. And I regret that now because not long after that, I was ready to take the next step with him.
And he found somebody else?
Yes,
yep.
He did. And I think that if I had, been more upfront with him and had not been, I think, cold and rude to him.
Just said you need a little time or something.
Yeah. I think, our relationship maybe could have ended up differently, but that's not what happened. So That's a regret. What else do I regret? I think that's a big one. I also regret not getting closer to my siblings sooner. I'm still working on getting close to my siblings and getting closer, but we were terrible to each other growing up. I mean, truly terrible, I think, to each other a lot of the time growing up. I think I did not realize that my siblings are in a lot of ways like some of my closest friends, and that I can share a lot with them. And I'm just really realizing that now. And so there's plenty of time to catch up, but I wish I would have realized that sooner. Yeah.
Any political aspirations yourself?
I'm never running for office.
No.
You've
seen it and you don't want to do it.
Don't want to do it. It's so much pressure. It's so much pressure. Your life is so exposed. You have to work all the time. I mean, depending on what office you're in, you have to work all the time. But no, I like working for the people who are going to make change.
Well, you could be a Republican, then you don't need to work.
Oh my God. No, I would never do that.
They're not getting a lot done. Come on.
They're not getting a lot done. Yeah, right. No. And they're also terrible. So...
Not all of them, but a lot.
Most of them.
Yeah.
I mean, there are maybe some good Republicans, but I think at the end of the day, they have to be accountable for their party. And frankly, even the best of them have not been accountable for certain things that have happened within their party or things that they believe. So I'm not going to kind of enumerate my grievances.
No, we don't want to end with that.
Yeah. So...
Well, sir, say something nice. I don't want to end with Republicans. I can't end the podcast.
You brought up Republicans, by the way.
It was my fault. I could cut that out, but I'm not gonna. So did you have a nice time? So just for my listeners, I have my Airbnb. Sean came for 3 days to get away.
What's the name of your Airbnb so I can make sure that we're really getting that sponsorship in?
Well, I'll put that in the notes.
Okay. No, but I actually have had a really lovely time.
Palm Springs Interlude.
I think I was telling you this. I booked this trip on an impulse. I was just so emotionally and like physically and
Depleted.
mentally just so depleted from working so hard the last year, working 12-hour days, 7 days a week, many weeks. Even I went on a vacation in quotes in January with some of the chosen family that I was talking about. We went to Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic. I ended up working like most of the like every day of that vacation. I ended up working. It's terrible. And so it's just so spent. And I'm so glad I came here because I feel so rejuvenated. I had a great time last night in Palm Springs. Palm Springs is, I've found to be just like really welcoming and laid back, but so fun and enjoyable. And
Yeah, I went downtown for lunch with a friend today, and it was hopping down there.
yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah, it was wonderful. So I'm so glad I was here.
Well, thank you for coming to my Airbnb, and thank you for participating in this. It's been fun.
Yeah, of course. And listeners, I would definitely come back and stay at this Airbnb, so I hope you check it out.
If you're a man.
If you're a man, okay.
Sorry, I got to limit it. Anyway, thanks a lot.